Up, up. Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We are getting set for a historic 9th treble. It feels like we've been chatting about this for a little while, by the way. And I don't know about yous. This is really for the ones that are catching this after we've been live, because the live people will be flooding in right now. Kind of scheduled this one somewhat last minute. My schedule, honestly, guys, for the last 2 weeks has not been my own. And I've done my best to keep everything on point and on schedule to the best of my ability. So thanks to everyone that is popping in live and loud. But if you're watching this after we've been live, fist bumps to yourself. But yeah, it feels like, I don't know about you, right? It was never really much of a title race this year. Kind of felt like the league is, was it wrapped up by November? Kinda. So then it's all been about the cups. It's all been about making sure we seal them and get the job done with that. And finally, we're at the apex of the mountain. We're at the pinnacle of the season, the final game, the conclusion. And it all kind of comes down to this in a weird way domestically, because the league is, maybe there might have been we dropped some points and all. We didn't win the league in February. Oh no, we didn't officially win the league in March either, or whatever it ended up being, So actually we've got real consequences, real jeopardy on the game at the weekend, which is going to be good fun. And we're taking on quite a familiar opponent in Aberdeen, who we have played. I was thinking about this before coming on, by the way. This will be the 6th time that we've played them this year, 4 times in the league. We knocked them out of the League Cup in the semi-final and then playing them here. So an opponent we've seen more than once, more than usual, certainly. Anyway, I've tried a few different tricks, tried a few different tactics to get one over on us. Some of them have been effective to a point. Some of them have, just been nothing, and we've managed to get by it and move on. And certainly with the way all the kind of encounters with Aberdeen, I'm kind of getting into preview stuff. We'll also the whole point of the show. But at the beginning, I like to give a wee minute for people to come in live and loud and whatever. But, we've had Aberdeen in quick succession a few times. We had that game at Paradise where, we went into cruise control. They came out with a second half, like changing of the guard kind of situation. And then we had the semi-final right thereafter. And then with this one, it's kind of similar. We only played them a few weeks ago. Or a week ago or whatever. We threw the B team at them, or the second string. I don't like B team. I think that's too, it diminishes too much the level of the standing in the squad. I think second string is it's respectful as well as accurate, which I think is what we're after with that kind of with terminology in general, So we threw the second string at them, and it was an absolute hosing, And normally in those situations of rotation, part of the risk is that our team sees the team sheet and goes, right, boys, we are up for it today. And that didn't really, it wasn't really anything to really derail us in any real way. There's a bunch of you joining us live and loud on YouTube, so fist bumps to yourself. Thanks for joining us, of course. And we had the press conference from Brendan earlier today, and I must confess, I've not actually heard it yet. I'm really sorry, guys. So if there is any tidbits from the press conference that contradict anything I say in the video today, I'm terribly sorry. As I say, this week and last week as well, my schedule's not been entirely my own. I've just not found the time to get there. And I did not want to finish Friday without doing a preview for the Scottish Cup final, because after we did our transfer special live stream yesterday, I did say we'd be live today to go through the final. A bunch of you tuned into the transfer special live stream where we took our 101 player shortlist and we condensed it down to a 19-man shortlist coming into the summer. Now, I will add more players back into the big list as well over the next couple of episodes as well. So we're still going to be scouting and we're still going to be looking around different situations. But now with the league closing down, number one, the rumour mill might actually get firing a bit more and might lead us in a few directions, a few paths to go down. But number two, there's still plenty of places around world football that we've not touched on yet that Celtic could be, should be, would be shopping in come this summer, because again, if you do listen to Brendan Rodgers press conferences, which I tend to do, except for to the one I've not caught yet today, I don't want to say missed because I will watch it, but he is quite adamant the squad needs 2 to 3 players of quality, and that was a big part of the show that we did last night and everything as well. So if you're into that kind of chat, it's a live stream out yesterday. There's a playlist on the channel homepage as well that will show you all the transfer specials. I certainly recommend the first episode, no matter what other ones you find interesting or worth watching. Of course, the first one is one of the best ones in my opinion, because we kind of lay out the squad as we take it into the summer. Tierney in, tailor out, but apparently Rodgers in the press conference is quite like, it's not really tailor out. Maybe it's still tailor in. But that aside, Tierney and the reckoning, the guys that are on loan coming back, that sort of thing. So that episode really sets out the stall, and then we look at domestic talent, which will we be shopping in Scotland this year? I wouldn't be against it. I was really shocked that we got Luke McCowan because it was a player that we clearly could have used in the squad. He's like we've always called him on this channel, the Scottish Hatate. So that was a great move. So I actually think that I'm not super like, oh yeah, we should definitely go and add this guy into our lineup or whatever. But if we did go after some players in Scotland, there is a few that would really fit in style-wise, ability-wise, potential-wise as well. And so that's a really good episode. I highly recommend that. And the last episode, of course, or the latest episode, is the live stream that we did last night, which is a lot longer. You'll be able to see those ones are actually the two longest episodes. And then in between, we preview a country, a league, sometimes both leagues, like top tier, second tier, if it's like France or Germany, that sort of thing, England. So yeah, plenty of good content there. Hope you all enjoy it. But like we always do, primarily on the channel, we're looking at the first team. We're looking at the game that we've got ahead. We have done some B team action, of course, for Youth Champions League. Don't get me wrong, but they're a bit more infrequent, obviously. And this is the stuff I really like doing on the channel, as much as I love the transfer stuff, and I love the transfer stuff a little bit more when the transfer is done, and especially if it's something like in the past, like Dyson, Kyogo, Hatate, Giacomakis, there's been Alistair Johnson. There's been a few of them that when they've signed for Celtic, I've already watched them a fair bit. If maybe like Alistair Johnson, maybe a wee bit, but I've got a good idea of who they are, what they are, trusty, and what they kind of bring to the table or whatever. So there'll be a lot more content coming out even in the off season, and I suspect as well, because of the content I make on my other channels, whatever. I'm going to have a good kick on Celtic content this summer in terms of like. For lack of a better expression, theory crafting in terms of transfers, squad situations as things develop. So there'll still be regular content on the channel even in the off season. So stay tuned for that. We'll have an end of season preview that I plan on doing as well, and a few different ways, as well as like we did like little report card things for Celtic. So we'll kind of pick up that content. And one thing I really like doing as well, because I've got a bugbear. I listen to a lot of Celtic content. I speak to lots of Celtic fans. I'm in lots of Celtic kind of chats and whatever. And like, see when people have got, in my opinion anyway, not the wrong end of the stick necessarily, but when I see it from a different angle, a different point of view, I just really like putting that out there so that it's like there in the conversation for people to consider themselves, tell me I'm wrong or agree with me or whatever it might be. But I just think that type of content is always fun to make. You guys seem to really enjoy it as well. So there's lots of comments that come off the back of it and stuff like that. So I'm sure there'll be tons of it that'll come out over the summer as well, and I look forward to doing that. But hail, boys and girls from all around the world that are tuning in as well. An episode covering players we've loaned out. Yeah, I could. That's a good one. We used to have Scott. Where did that come from? Josh McCafferty on the channel, who runs the Celtic Twitter page, loaning youth players, and he was very good for keeping us up to date on that when we had the weekly flagship podcast. But Josh is now went into mainstream media, and he's not doing like fan media as much anymore or whatever. So yeah, we've kind of lost that off the channel. In fact, so a video on that. I don't know if I would do that on the well, maybe we could do it like once a month. Actually, depends on the loan moves we get, how interesting they are, etc. Because like I don't think you guys will want to keep up with like or Giacomakis and these types of guys, but like Odenholm and Lagerby, okay, Bernabe, that could be a lot of fun for sure. Thanks a lot for the contribution, Walker. I'll definitely add that. I already have added that onto the to-do list. Ryan Moore, good to see you as well. Of course, is Stuart McLaren. Hail to you all, of course, boys and girls. Now, I think the best place to actually start, so thanks to everyone that is tuning in live and loud on a Friday night. I'm sure there's better things some of you could be up to. Depends what you're up to on a Friday in general. But anyway, this is my idea of a fun Friday evening, certainly, anyway, before getting into the nitty-gritty of what to do with the kids and dinner and all that good stuff as well. So anyway, this is the squad that we've got available for the most part. I don't think there'll be... I think there's the thing that I'm unsure about, right, is the bench, because the Scottish Cup, as we've obviously seen throughout the year anyway, just period or whatever, is... we get a smaller bench than what we do in the league. The league bench is expanded. Sometimes we've had 2 goalkeepers on the bench in the league. It's that big, but you don't get that same, that same allowance in the Scottish Cup final. So the spots on the bench are at a premium. I think it's only 7, isn't it? I think in the league it can be like 12 or 9 or something. Excuse me. I'm sure the live chat will correct me. It saved me going clicking on web pages and going into a dark hole. So if the depending on what Rodgers is thinking and whatever, and really who's available, I don't think there's many question marks. But McCardle's probably the only youth player that's probably going to feature on the bench. Now, earlier this season, we have seen Turley, we have seen Bonner, and we have seen Donovan make the squad, get the bench. I think Turley had an appearance or two this year. Jude Bonner, maybe the same. These are guys I watched at B team level, so it's hard to remember if what I've seen of them is B team, first team in a weird way, because I'm just thinking about them on the ball, running, passing, shooting, dribbling, whatever. But yeah, I think McCardle's kind of the only one that could be a fringe kind of player that gets into the picture here. So there's maybe a space for maybe one other random youth player to maybe be in the picture. It depends on unknown factors, of course, and in terms of availability and Rodgers' idea for this or whatever. But I've not got Sinisalo in the picture as well. Sinisalo I think did great, but I think Schmeichel was very firmly aimed his recovery towards playing in the Scottish Cup final, and it's only going to be Schmeichel and goals. The defence does give us a lot of questions, right? Because it's clearly like Johnson over Ralston. I think we know that in general. Sorry, Tony. It's clearly, I think it's clearly going to be Taylor in this one, but I never want to completely rule Schlupp out of starting the game because it's a bigger pitch. I don't want to say you promise people this stuff, but is it kind of part of the come to Glasgow thing? You'll get a cup. You'll get if we get to a cup final, we'll play you kind of thing or whatever to get a deal done or something. I don't know. Highly unlikely, but it's just always something that creeps in the back of my head. So I just don't always want to totally discount him because again, similar to Aberdeen, the way he came in for that game. Did he come in for that game? Actually, am I remembering that wrong? But I think because he's on loan, generally, this big generalization, loan contracts have stipulations around appearances and stuff like that, and it's probably cheaper for Celtic to play him a set amount of times than to decide on when to play him or whatever. It could be as little as 3 times, could be as much as 5, could be 10. I don't know what the number is, or could be. Why am I losing the? There we go. Excellent. Hey guys, I've got some bad news. We were chatting about Sorare Data yesterday for being a good website for catching stuff and all that, but it's going to be going defunct in the next week or two or whatever. But yeah, Schlupp did start. Had to just double check that, of course. And let's just have a peek at Schlupp. I'll change the page for a second, right? And we'll have a wee look at Schlupp's Celtic career to date in the league, in the Champions League, at least anyway. So let's go to Celtic. So wow, he's made 8 starts, 7 off the bench, 15 combined appearances. It's a nice round number, that. Maybe that's him now, filled quota. 15 appearances all in. Lots of games off the bench, 45 minutes against St Johnstone, off the bench against Hibs, off the bench against Bayern and Dundee when he first came in, of course. So interesting. That could be quota full, by the way. That might be it. Quota full, perhaps. Who knows? 1 goal, 1 assist, and nothing else worth mentioning, to be honest with you. The highlight being the Bayern Munich game, which SO5-wise, the scoring matrix, it kind of reflects it quite well. 67 is a good score. Great game against St Mirren, and then outside of that, it's been pretty meh, isn't it? Good game against Aberdeen, and that might be a wee precursor to Rodgers flexing the squad, because that's really what happened here. 90% of these players are on the bench for the weekend, you would say, and if that's the case, using the bench in this game, super easy for Brendan now at this point. Lots of confidence, really, no matter what the game state, because I don't think there was really any periods. The opening period of the match, maybe Aberdeen had their best chances, but there was no period of the game where we looked out of our depth or we didn't have enough quality on the pitch or whatever. Ryan Moore ahead of the game with a score prediction 3-1. Now, I think I called 2 or 3-1 in this game. And then when the lineups came out, I thought, oh, Jesus, man, let's see how it actually goes. So I can drink that tea with you. I can see where 3-1 comes from. But we'll go through it. We'll see what we've got. But yeah, Trusty did okay. Naroki did great, of course, scoring from a header. And one thing I do want to check on this here, right, is how many goals have the defenders scored this season? So let's see. Vickers has got 1. Schlupp, do we count? I'm thinking centre backs, right? Centre backs. Vickers has got 1. Naroki's got 1. Trusty has scored. This must have been in the cup, but and Scales. I thought Scales had scored as well. What's this over? L15, L40. Let's see the season. So here we go. So let's see. Yeah, Vickers 1, Trusty 1, Scales 1, Narocki 1. Centre back goals have been at a premium. We've not had many of them, to say the least. And Narocki getting his, it felt a bit more natural than everyone else's. Like Vickers has obviously got that screamer with a curly toe. And has Vickers scored a header in the cup or something? I don't know why, but I think he has. Maybe he's got 2 in all comps. Trusty was a set piece. Scales was a set piece. But Narocki, with far fewer minutes, it just felt like stepping onto a cross and knocking it down past the keeper was a wee bit more in his repertoire. So, similar to, I think I'm probably going to exclude Schlupp from the beginning. I think it will be Taylor for his Bon Voyage, perhaps, or maybe it's just stay wee man, kind of chat afterwards, after he puts in a good shift. But with the centre backs, like when we did play Aberdeen and we fully rotated, and then even if I can just go back to the St Mirren game, yeah, we stuck with Scales and Vickers. I just need to remind myself because it's been a crazy week, but I thought that was a bit of a tell that Scales is maybe now officially ahead of Trusty in the pecking order. But as I was coming onto the show today, or the stream, or the preview, or whatever we're going to call it, I was thinking, again, not that you promise people games or whatever, but Scales gets trophy day, maybe Trusty gets cup final, but we have seen Trusty struggle at Hampden before. Scales been a half-time sub in the past, so maybe not is probably the most likely, but it is, again, something that just creeps into the back of my head here because, I think for all intents and purposes, no one is of the opinion that Trusty is not good enough to play for us. I think the main thing that does come is just, does he lift the level? And I think there's questions to be had, conversations. Can he develop and get better? Of course, right? But you know what I'm saying in that regard. So with that, does he get development time in a cup final in that regard? High pressure game, treble on the line, history on the line. You've kind of, I don't want to say failed or let down or whatever, but you were subpar. Previously at Hampden, we had someone else come in to rescue the situation, as it were. So, does he have a demon to exercise is maybe what I'm driving at here. Carl Vickers is almost certainly going to be nailed. But Vickers is, he's had a few injuries, Big Carter, hasn't he? And maybe Narocki is the insurance policy that we want for him. Big Eye Rocky. It's a right-footed centre-back that can pass the ball. And maybe, that's something that could just happen later in the game. I don't think Narocki's get any chance of starting, similar to Ralston. And I'm going to exclude Schlupp now. I think this is still, even if Scales starts this game, I'm still almost always in doubt over which one is going to start unless we get into a real clear situation of what's happening, because Schlupp coming in for the transfer fee is not just going to be Lagerbielked or Narockied to the same extent, is he? I don't imagine it to be the case anyway. But similar to Kieran here, I'm firmly in the Scales camp. I think he's the best partner for Vickers that we have at the club. It's probably the best way of summing it up. And, without trying to overthink it, the back four probably is going to be this, isn't it? Been quite consistent throughout the year, probably the most selected back four overall. Scales has played with everyone at centre back, really. And yeah, Taylor knows the course. He's done this enough times already. AJ the same. And the fullbacks are going to be really important in this. We'll get to that when we talk about Aberdeen. Which now, guys, I didn't do a breakdown for the Hibs game, and I'm really sorry for not doing it, right? Because, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I've heard so many takes on the game, and honestly, I think everyone I've spoken to, heard, whatever, in the St Mirren game has said maybe the guys were, they just weren't at it, or just that whole it's a long season fatigue and whatever, right? No Hatate is huge. Bernardo is not this progressive midfielder that a lot of people want to think he is. He's much more of this type of defensive shield player. Engels, I was really willing him on in the St Mirren game. I think I said Hibs breakdown earlier. I beg your pardon, St Mirren. I really expected Engels to show up in that game and really put his name on it, and that didn't really happen. And I think a big part of the reason was the midfield free combination of Bernardo, Engels, McGregor. Just not working. None of these guys are really, and McGregor can, but didn't, and maybe was supposed to. Maybe had some kind of flashes of it, but we never had anyone progressing the ball through the middle. We didn't have any penetration through the middle against St Mirren. And I was shocked. I said in the preview the midfield had to be Engels and McKeown. And I know McKeown has had highs, and he's had some games where he's oh yeah, he's he can again, not to be dismissive or whatever, but you can tell we signed him from Dundee rather than Barcelona, right? Just to use an extreme to illustrate a point. But in that game, we should have started him 1,000%. And I really hope Rodgers doesn't. Captain Caveman. First time on a preview show, I take it. Slipdog's been in the house for a while. But McKibben is the Scottish Hatate. He is the only other player in the midfield that can take a man on, beat a man, cut a pass, really have high energy in the press. And like we've mentioned recently after McKibben's last stellar performance, underrated how two-footed he is, right? And I think the dynamic, we've seen a really good dynamic before with Engels on the left, which is normally occupied by Hatate, and McKibben on the right. McKibben always plays on the right of the midfield three. I say always loosely because he has, it's maybe not strictly true, but predominantly. And I was very surprised to see that not happen. Because again, Bernardo was on the left, which is a very fish out of water spot for him. Of course, you're keeping Engels on the right. Against St Mirren's, maybe a bit more familiarity for him or whatever, but Engels on the left of the midfield three in the Hatate role. Maybe not the role necessarily, but certainly in that space coming inside on his right foot, just having a wider array of passing options, more different options to keep the defenders on their toes as well as finding teammates. It just feels if you're going to do this midfield thing with Engels, that's from what I've seen, the best way to get that out of him. We'd never play Hatate on this side, but when Engels does play that side, it's been McKibben. So again, for the semi-final, for the final, I'm all over the place today, guys. Apologies. I don't know how Brendan cannot select this midfield three to go and win us the game. McGregor doing his thing in that metronome spot, Engels on the left of the midfield, McKibben on the right, and going to town on it. One thing that would be interesting to double check, and I don't know precisely what games it was, so it will be a bit of a needle in a haystack, but I'll see if I can find it on my other screen. And by chance we found one of them. Hibs away. Now we actually lost that game, in fact, but I think Hibs away, right, so I'll remember that. Hatate, McGregor, yeah. I think Hibs away might be the easiest one. There might be another one. I'm pretty sure there's a Motherwell game where we did something like that. No, it wasn't Motherwell. Dundee United, maybe. Dundee United, yes, there we go. Dundee United at home, we won 2-0. I'll put this on screen. But again, it doesn't really show, but I do think like the balance in midfield, if you were to go back, I'm sure that it's only happened twice that I've found already, so it's not happened often, but I'm sure if you look at the highlights of those games, the Hibs away game in between the Bayern Munich stuff, we lost that fixture. But this one is a game we won. And I just thought the midfield was just looked a lot better. We got a lot more out of Engels. Doesn't show here, but again, I don't know why there's a hesitation to play McKibben in the absence of Hatate. For me, it should just be a straight 1 in, 1 out. You switch sides and you let them kind of do their thing, as it were. I get Bernardo like deserves the minutes that he's been getting and whatever, and maybe there's been a little bit of squad management going on with Bernardo's recent inclusion alongside Engels and McGregor. But I would really hope for the final that's quashed, because one of the best uses we've seen of Bernardo since his return from injury is that McGregor, as we call on this channel, the handcuff situation where McGregor comes off, Bernardo comes on, same job, same everything. Bernardo has a bit more defensive nous about him. McGregor's got a bit more attacking threat about him, so you can like turn the peep down on the gas a little bit. But he's still not. I was saying earlier, he's not a progressive player, right? He's like press resistant, and he's good at playing the boxes, dealing with pressure, making a smart pass, keeping possession going, and finding the out ball, finding the guy that can get out of pressure and like going. He is good at that, Bernardo. I just think he gets a bit fish out of water higher up the pitch, to be honest with you. So I like that spot for him, and that's coming from the bench, to be honest with you. So for me, like, again, unless there's something in the press conference that we've not seen or heard, I think it's got to be this midfield three we start with. Now, I've left McArdle on screen, right? Because from what I've seen from McArdle in his brief stints in the first team, as well as in the B team, is his role that he's been coached to do is Hatate. I've seen him supporting the front line in the press. I've seen him collecting the ball from defence as well with Kyle Ure, or Uri. I'm guessing it's Ure. I was going to start saying Ure. I always kind of stumble on what to call him. And then progressing up the pitch, joining attacks, slicing balls for, the likes of Cummings and Turleys and Bonners and Isaguzus and DDs, on the break and whatever. So again, like, McKibben's ahead of him in the pecking order, of course, but we do have players that fit the style of how the first team operates anyway. So, in the absence of somebody, a good squad should have a plug-in. Should just be, well, this is the next guy in line. Very similar to what we've seen with Yang. You know, when Forrest was injured, Kuhn was out, Jota hadn't been returned to us yet. We had to play Yang, and Yang's a winger, and Yang knew the system of the front three. Could play right, could play left, because he's talented enough to do that. And I'm saying I'm not trying to bum him up, but like he has the ability to do that. And yeah, that kind of vibe, but for midfield. So I really like McArdle, and if McKeown does start, that could be a lovely like keeping the shape kind of thing on the go. Engels maybe by default clocks out the 90 minutes in this one. Or Engels could come off for Bernardo. You put him next to McGregor, whatever. But I'd like to see McArdle for McKeown, because I think you can start with McKeown, have that Hatate replacement in the midfield. And I think this will be a tale. If we see McKeown start, it should be a tale that Rodgers is, singing from the same hymn sheet. He's obviously still subscribed to the channel, but don't know if he's caught the stream yet or any of the content this week. But hail to you all, of course. Well done, mate, picking up a ticket. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's not been perfect. There's been highs, there's been lows or whatever, but yeah, I think overall the positives and the play style he gives is better than what we've seen from Bernardo in that midfield dynamic starting against St Mirren. The fact that we went with makes me think I would. I agree with that as well. That it's maybe a bit of foreshadowing on the go here, and because it's the bigger pitch, it's Aberdeen who are a bit more rowdy and a bit more going to foul you and stuff like that. Maybe you want Bernardo in there, but I think, one of the main things with Bernardo as well is defending, and if he is defending, he's coming from this left-hand side here. He's coming into this side of the pitch with Taylor, where Taylor goes wild card and inverts at fullback. Scales then normally is the one that gets balls shelled down that angle anyway. Aberdeen have got quick players, they've got physical players, they've got a good route to goal in themselves. And when Bernardo's on this side as well, I don't know. I think if Bernardo's going to do that thing, he needs to be in the middle here. I think you let Taylor and McGregor pair up here. You build the back kind of shape as you do. And then you let McKeown and Engels go and dictate the game alongside whoever's going to be the front three. I don't think you overcomplicate things in this type of fixture. We've played with them a little bit by sending the second string out previously. And, I think everyone that played that game did well and showed, like I mentioned before, they could play against Aberdeen very effectively. Well, yeah. Okay, fair enough, right? I don't disagree with this, right? But when you say that, like, because of what Engels gets against him, what does a great Bernardo season look like? He's not going to score more than 10 goals a season. Is he going to get like 10 assists a year? Maybe. But it's possession-based stuff. It's defensive-based stuff. Is really where he gets a great season. That's where his impact is felt for me. I don't think you're going to see Bernardo on 9, 10, 12 goals. I don't think you're going to get him on 10 plus goal contributions. I just don't think he's got it in him. It's not that he's not good enough, but it's just not his style. And maybe he just doesn't have a little bit of that in him, perhaps. Maybe I'm questioning his goal contribution, not just goals, but assists, that kind of thing. Killer ball, final ball. So what does a good Bernardo see? He's just not had minutes because of the injury. Granted, I don't think Engels has stopped that bucks again. Engels is the other side of the coin for me. I think him and similar to the way I've described like McGregor and Scott Brown, I think Engels and Bernardo are two sides of the same coin where like McGregor and Brown are both great in this metronome controller position that Brendan Rodgers wants, where they are the coach on the pitch, they orchestrate the team, they get on the ball in really tough situations, do the right thing. Where McGregor excels is the times where we do get, and we've seen it very much this season with his record, personal best goal contributions or whatever. But for me, McGregor isn't a deep midfielder anyway. He is like a more attacking midfielder than a defensive one, certainly. And that's we see that the passes he plays, the play can make in the final third, levels above Scott Brown. I don't think anyone would argue against that. But with Scott Brown, is the other side of the coin, is he had that nose for danger. He would just snuff things out. He would put his body in where it hurts. Not that McGregor doesn't, but McGregor's very often backpedaling. And yeah, Scott Brown backpedaled and had to recover run as well. Don't get me wrong, but Brown was very much nose to nose with people, going, "This is my ball, wee man." Take the ball, get fouled himself. That kind of stuff. So I think Engels and Bernardo are both the same in that regard, where they're strong, They're good in possession. They're tidy on the ball. They've got good technique, good football IQ. But Bernardo has a little bit more of that. I'll win the ball back and I'll make sure I can see what the opposition are doing. I'll cover this area. I'll stick on this man and stop what's happening. Engels, I don't think he's got that nose for danger. But what I do think he has is that eye for, let me zip the ball into that channel. Let me play it behind that fullback. Let me hit it off your head and then our guy can run off you. That sort of thing. So I don't think Engels stops Bernardo. And I think even what I'm describing here is a reason why Rodgers and the team have tried to play them both together recently and could very well do so again in the final. Because again, they're good on the ball. They're good at resisting pressure. They make good decisions most of the time with the ball. You don't really see these guys, being bomb scares, as we like to call them in Scotland, But I do think they're too similar. And I think that's why McKeown is needed, because McKeown is the link. McKeown is the catalyst for stuff like that, where Engels can get on the ball in a tight space, receive it from McGregor, get that eye for a pass up there, see that McKeown is coming off the front line or driving into this area, get the ball to him, someone gets magnetized towards him, a defender, he then slides someone else in or drops the shoulder, plays Engels back in, feeds a striker, whatever. Whereas Engels coming from this position here is not going to get Bernardo. Bernardo coming from this position here might get Engels, but it's a might, So I just think McKeown, it's just the Hatate replacement, the Hatate would play. There'd be no question about that. And yeah, I think that's ultimately all I can say on the midfield. Let's see what you guys are saying on that before we get to the front line. There's a bunch of comments coming in. Love to see it. One of the most underrated attributes in football is availability. It's simply, that's a good point, Liam. That is a good point. I've kind of thought, and if Liam, I'm sure you were in the transfer chat last night. You see guys with regular injury records. Red flag, man. We don't want to be touching that. People can get injured. People can develop a bad injury record. Unforeseen things happen. It's just life. It's football. But you can see it coming with some players. You know what I mean? And Bernardo, his lack of availability at Benfica. I know from speaking to Benfica fans when we signed him, he wasn't good enough. Point blank, and that's not because he's bad. It's really actually because the Benfica midfield is especially when he was trying to break through in it. Florentine Luis, they had another Portuguese kid that came through and did really well. I'm forgetting who. João Neves, now at PSG. They signed Orkan Kokcu. I think did that happen after we signed Bernardo? It might have done. Enzo Fernandez they signed as well, of course. Their midfield was just levels above where Bernardo is, and they felt could get to. So his lack of availability there, maybe there was a bit of injury that played a part in it, but without being in the Benfica building, you would never be aware of that. But it's kind of felt that way a little bit since he's been here, sadly. It was PB's fight example, being riding that Raskin tackle in the cup last year when we really need. Yeah, he's strong. He'll resist pressure. He's got good football IQ. And at that point, the best thing he could do was shoot, because he wasn't going to be able to play a pass in for anyone at that moment. The goal was available for him. The target was visible. It wasn't 5 guys standing in the way. So, I think we're on the same page here, Kieran. And I agree. Now, I've been bringing this back up since we brought Jota back recently, right? But Jota's last season, I was saying this about Jota all the time. He hadn't won as a game. He hadn't grabbed that game by the scruff of the neck and put his write his name all over it. Hatate has done that. Dyson's done that. I would go as far as to say Ida's done that at times. Kuhn wrote the first half of the season, his name all over it. We've certainly seen Johnson even impact games. Would I say grab the game by the scruff of the neck? Probably not. We've certainly seen Taylor be, maybe not this season, but Brendan's season 1 and under Ange. We've certainly seen Taylor be a match winner, a guy that controlled a game, was a big X factor, a big difference maker. And I would agree, I don't think we've got a game like that out of Engels. Sure, he's had games where he's laced a couple of assists or got a penalty and an assist, or, that kind of thing. But, it's just he needs a McKeown, he needs an Hatate there to be that link, to be that playmaker, to complement what he's doing, for me. Could he, he should still have matches. I think it'll probably hopefully come next season. Let's see what happens with some transfer rumours that are going around now. It would have been nice to see it this time around. But did we see that in season 1 from Matt O'Reilly? That grab a game by the scruff of the neck. Let's go and investigate. I don't mind a wee tangent if it's a fun one. Oh, this is O'Reilly's name's always a blooming nightmare to search on this because that flimming apostrophe. I'm just going to put it in Brighton. Let's go and see. Let's investigate. I'm an investigator. See you later, Celtic. Oh, right. So let's go back to season 1, O'Reilly. So he comes in the January, and where does it end? It ends here. 6-0 against Motherwell. So let's scroll back. It's only 6 months. Fair. I think he's probably, it's fair to say O'Reilly is behind Engels on progression through their potential when they've arrived at Celtic, if I can make that into a sentence. Started very well. He did indeed, by the way. Started very, very well. Very impressive here. No two ways about it. Was he taking set pieces right away? I know he's still sharing the job with, would it have been Rodgers or Moy? I think it, can't remember. Good debut against Rangers as well. Definitely splashed on the scene, as it were. 2 goals off the bench against St Mirren and a 7-0 win. Goal and an assist in the Aberdeen game. So yeah, he's won as a game there. You would say I can't remember that too well off the top of my head. It's that long ago. 2 assists against them. I think that was a good performance. Oh, that's next season. Yeah, that's when he started to kick on a little bit. We started to see him as being the main man in the team for a while before season 2 and everything else. So yeah, like I say, I think Engels, you would expect him to be more developed than O'Reilly upon arrival at Celtic. So it's one of those ones as well. But yeah, O'Reilly wasn't playing every week, wasn't scoring every week when he first started. And Engels, maybe we feel that he should have been ahead of O'Reilly at the point of his potential when he's arrived at Celtic, whatever that sentence I've tried to say 3 or 4 times is. But maybe the reality is he isn't. You know, maybe the reality is that he is, but he's never going to be that productive on goals and all the rest of it. It seems like he's got the will, the determination, and the desire to add that to his game, as I believe it is with Rodgers. So that might be something, again, we see in the fullness of time, and this might be premature, but I would agree with the sentiment. Rodgers talks about the examples of Messi and Ronaldo. Everyone talks about their goals, but no one talks about the fact that, yeah, I'm with you there too. The best players play every game. They do not want to miss a match every game. Because again, like the thing I think with that comment, I'll put it back on the screen for a second, is if you're Ronaldo and Messi, more so Ronaldo for what I'm about to say, you're aware that you will only play X amount of games. You don't know what X is until you finish your career. So you've got a finite time to win as many Champions Leagues, to win as many Ballon d'Ors, to score as many goals, to set goal scoring records, to do hat tricks, to do all that stuff. And you will take every opportunity to make X as high a value as possible so that Y and Z and A, B, and C and all the rest of all the back of it. Subsequently, you score more goals, you win more cups, you win more medals, you win more accolades, you become a better, recognised player in the history of football. And yeah, playing for Celtic, you've maybe not got that same Ronaldo level, like aspiration on Ballon d'Ors and all that kind of stuff, of course. But yeah, that is that is the desire of like the best people, the most competitive people, and those are winners generally, So guys that do not miss a game is a high value thing. Sometimes it's out of people's control. Sometimes people are wimps and say I'm no fit, and maybe they are sore. But do you know what? Sometimes Ronaldo's sore. He still goes out and wins the Champions League and does whatever. Very fair to say O'Reilly is behind Engels. He tailed off under Ange before Rodgers joined. Rodgers, yeah, fair enough. Quinny using facts over feelings. It's 2025. I don't know. I don't really know what that means. It sounds funny, and I want to laugh at it, but I don't really get it. I'm sorry. Sorry. What did I say that was facts over feelings or feelings over facts? Sorry, it's hard to, because when I say this, it takes like, I don't know, like 15 seconds for you to hear it, and then however long to type it, and I'm rattling off a lot of stuff. So sorry. But for me, I think this has to be the midfield on the basis of what we've seen at St Mirren. But like, who was it that said it? Oh, Liam Devine. That there might, the Hibs game might be the precursor to this game, and that would signal Bernardo. So I'm open to be wrong on this one, but I really think like if there's a real dissection of what went wrong in St Mirren, and we're not just like, oh, it was flag day or trophy day, and everyone was phoning it in at the end of the season, or the boys weren't quite at it, or whatever. Then it almost. But I think if you're actually looking at the midfield and think, how do we make that better for the final? How do we make sure we have a better game? McKeown has to play for me. Now, the front three probably picks itself for the most part. I find it really hard to imagine that Ida doesn't start this. And I think once you've accepted that, or I've accepted that, the rest of the front three kind of paints itself together. Kenny hopefully comes off the bench to feature. Kuhn is going to finish the season off strong, is his hope, his ambition, of course. And Forrest has got his goal now. Now, we did need it to be a league goal. It turns out I wasn't too sure in the build up to this. No one really specified until he got the league goal that he needed a league goal to keep the streak running. But he got his league goal. So just by him, well done, Jimmy. A club legend, cemented status now firmly. Not that it wasn't previously. I think it always has been. Not always, but I think like since Ange gave him that contract, I've been kind of saying this recently again as well, just to remind a few folk or whatever. But when Ange gave him that contract, this was one of the few channels that was supportive of it because really of his legacy. And like ultimately at that point, you wind back 3 years from now when he was a bit younger and maybe he wasn't as openly recognised as a Celtic icon or a modern day legend or whatever. It was like, just let him go to Hibs, let him go to St Mirren and Aberdeen. He'll play there every week and we don't need him and we'll go get somebody better. But Forrest is way more valuable in our squad than out of it, because exactly how he's been used this year and the last year under Rodgers, a guy like that being James Forrest, who's been here since he was 12 and won all the stuff he is way better than signing the next 22-year-old from Aberdeen and giving him a shot, or buying a random guy from Norway and giving him a shot in that role, or Yang. Yang's fine, but Forrest is better. Is that job, quite simply. If I had to choose between Yang and Forrest, I'm picking Forrest for me, for my squad, for the club, as it were, because you need identity as well as deliverables. And Forrest has already shown over the years he can get assists against St Mirren and score goals against St Mirren, get assists against Ross County and whatever else, So, but yeah, job done, kind of. I expect him to come on the pitch. He's still going to make a contribution in this game and all the rest of it. And of course, like Yang isn't going to start this over Dice. And I think the front three does paint itself by numbers. I think there is a question from some people whether Ida does start this one. And we can chat about that if you like. But I just don't see it. I think Ida starts this all day, every day. I used in my opinion, then you pulled up a website that was likely to disprove. Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't know when I did that. Sorry. I really. What was, we were talking about Bernardo, Engels, and O'Reilly and stuff. I don't see any comments from you, Kieran, that. No. I think I agreed with you on this, didn't I? You've lost me, man. I'm sorry. Maybe I've not been. Maybe I've not been clear in what I've said. Apologies, mate, if I've got the wrong end of the sticker as well. Barry Ferguson is Bruni's assistant at Motherwell. Is Bruni been announced as Motherwell manager? And is that real? That Barry Ferguson is his number 2? That is hilarious. Engels versus Moore first season. O'Reilly's first season, I really don't know if I'm. I don't really know if I'm talking with you correctly or not. But like we were saying, like O'Reilly was coming from League One, having been released from Fulham, but it was more like he didn't want to sign on at Fulham because he wanted to play and go get minutes. Engels has been like a youth international, has been in the Bundesliga, so we would have expected that he would have been kind of ahead. But O'Reilly, actually, it seems like he was actually contributing much better. The global football stats for last year. No. Global football stats? What do you mean? But yeah, I think this is the way the team's going to line up. Now, when it comes to Aberdeen, we normally have a website we can go to get a lineup projection or prediction or whatever. But I think what we can do in the absence of that this time is just have a look at how they've lined up over the last couple of games, because we can see who's available, who's fit, what's worked, what's not worked. And then we can, then go on to a score prediction and then finish. Oh, sugar, wrong screen. Quinny boy, get it together. So, if we have a look, obviously, so where will we go back to? Let's go back to the 2 East Strawberry Rangers. Let's see the team that played for them there. So they went with Doohan and goals. The back four is probably what I'm most interested in here. Dorrington and Noster. The midfield of Palaversa and Clarkson played against us. So he has favoured having those 2 playmakers in the engine room and then having pace and power and the support three behind the Arrowhead striker. Against Rangers, they got a 2-2 draw with that at home. Very credible result, well done. Beating Hibs is no mean feat. Same formula. Kevin Nisbet with the goal. Losing 1-0 away to St Mirren. Same formula. Shinnie at left back this whole time as well. And Shinnie's normally earlier this season being the Scott Brown, essentially the team midfield kind of hard man. Nielsen is maybe injured or something. Doesn't seem to be featuring. But Kirsten Tobers, the Latvian captain that they signed from Switzerland, has played a little bit in this game against Rangers before coming off, perhaps injured. Dante Polvara in for Ante Palaversa. McGrath comes back from injury. Okol's back in the frame here, and Ode Daba. But again, it's kind of the same formula. I mean, you see the players that subbed on. They've played Rangers on the 11th and then played us on the 14th. It feels like this is the first team, isn't it? At the moment, with who's available and whatever between everyone else. And then the final game of the season, they didn't really rest. Oh, did they rest? I don't know. McGrath and Okol's coming on. It feels like resting Kiskinen and Morris, certainly. Tobers resting that Dorrington, or was Dorrington maybe suspended because he sent off against us. So he's come in there. I think this is most likely with Dorrington coming back in. That's most likely going to be the team that we come up against. So let's just colour the dots red. Now, Mitov has been quite a good SPFL goalkeeper. I know he's not perfect. It's not really been that. We're talking about the value of availability. It's not been that available for Aberdeen that much this year. Jensen was a boy that they signed. I think it was from Sweden. And I seen a source that I rate saying that he was actually a very effective player in that league and will do well at Aberdeen. So he's performed quite well recently. I think he did okay against us without being exceptional. There's also chat about Jack McKenzie getting hit with a chair, which is just crazy, man. It just sounds like you're talking about wrestling whenever you say that, doesn't it? But hopefully he's fit and available. It's most likely going to be a place on the bench regardless. This back four. 2 seconds, guys. So yeah, a midfield, and again with Shinnie playing at left back, it felt like coming into the last game against Aberdeen, I thought maybe they're doing some sort of wacky inverted fullbacky thing where they let those playmaker midfielders in the engine room, Clarkson and Palaversa, kind of go forth and control the game, and then those guys maybe nip in a little bit, but they were firmly, maybe because of our wingers, actually pinned out quite wide. But they've both got good engines, they've both got good tackling ability, and the boy Jensen was like happy to attack, very happy to attack. Ante Palaversa is a player I was familiar with before coming to Scotland, a former Man City kid, a former wonder kid, if you like. Had some bad injuries, never really got going on the continent in Belgium or France, and he really should scoosh this league. He really should be doing very well. I think he is doing well, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's doing as well as I'd have thought. Kind of similar standing, you might not like me for saying this, but similar standing a few years ago in terms of potential, maybe not availability, which we're chatting about, as Raskin when he was in Belgium as well, taking set pieces, tackling, youth international, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, didn't really get the same amount of minutes, got some injuries, and I say that was a bit of a diminishing situation for him. And yeah, maybe he can improve. Let's see. But there's always a player I'm always happy to see playing regularly, whether it's against us or not. I don't think he's been that good against us either, for what it's worth. But Aberdeen, as we know, in this kind of system, this kind of formation, they are looking to. I just copied the team there like a tube. Kiskinen and Morris. They're going to look to break away with these guys. This is what they want to do. They want to counter-attack. They want to have one, hopefully two guys penetrating through the middle. And, can they get the back post kid in, depending on what side of the pitch it comes from? They want to win the ball with the defence, get into these guys and try and spray balls. Jensen is more than allowed to go forth and attack. that might give us a wee bit of a headache. And Dyson doesn't mind that headache, to be honest with you. But targeting this side of our team is something a lot of teams have done. Morris has had some joy with it, make no mistake about it. We even see with teams that the attacking midfielders, McGrath earlier this season, Papi Gay, I'm not sure if he's done this too much, but going around the outside of the centre backs to just try and cause some extra problems down those channels. And that's their main route to go. That happens from being deep and defensive, having that back four and maybe not necessarily making triangles with the midfielders, but the midfielders being like together as a shield. If McKeown's got the ball, he's got like people to deal with, and it's not easy for him to get forward and retain possession. He'll need to go back and retreat. And if he makes that pass a bit blind or a bit sloppy, can they win the ball, spray it into a channel, and send someone on for a counter attack kind of thing? It's pretty much the only thing I expect from Aberdeen, from what we've seen and from what they've got in their team. So for us, like again, Kuhn, when we've been speaking about Kuhn, even when he's down and he's not like on his like peak, Kuhn in this league is very good 1v1. The problem is when he's on his down, 1v2, he's not that great. When he's at the peak of his powers, I think he doesn't mind taking on two men in Scotland. He can do it when he does have that variety of maybe coming inside. It does get a bit of a bad rap for being one-dimensional, but Kuhn can go on the outside and clip a ball. Make no mistake about it. He just needs the right support around him with the fullback and with whatever midfielder he's got close to him. But whether he's at the peak of his powers, peak of his form or not, 1v1, Kuhn will kill anyone in the league, anyone. But when it becomes 2, that's where Kuhn struggles. When it becomes 3, he's out the game. He's not going to do that much. He's going to have to come inside and really clip a ball in to a packed box and try and find somebody, he doesn't really get on the outside in this situation. AJ is normally bursting into these spaces to get fed. And yeah, that's for me, that's just a little bit of Nicholas Kuhn kind of thoughts and feelings and all the rest of it. But if like the pitch is bigger and if like Clarkson doesn't get close to him, if this midfield is maybe in this sort of position here, fullback's a bit higher, defense are going to retreat as a little pair and keep it narrow. If Kuhn gets somebody one-on-one, they're toast, like toast. So that's probably one of the beautiful things. And Paddy Roberts needed 3 men to be like when Kuhn's 1v2, for Paddy Roberts that was 1v3. Like Paddy Roberts 1v1 wasn't even a question. Paddy Roberts could do 2 guys. No, don't clip that. So easily, better than so many players I've seen play for us over the years. That was really his superpower. Like you really had to put 3 guys near him to get the ball off him, to stop him getting to the box with a cross or a shot or whatever. And Kuhn's maybe not just quite that level of being able to go by man after man, So with the bigger pitch and maybe how this will shape out, we've seen how much Forrest took Shinnie to the cleaners, and like Kuhn is just going to kill him, and this one, if this is kind of the way they shape up and maybe how the game kind of pans out. Big Ida will do a good job in this one, make no mistake about it. I think he's on to score a couple of goals in this one. And, we'll probably see Scales try and progress us out of defence and into this area here with Taylor here. And let's see how the kind of left-hand side plays out. But this is going to be the main focus of the pitch, I think, is the left-hand side again for how they're going to want to attack and how we're going to try and get out of defence. So Alistair Johnson, we're probably going to see him tighter at times. And when he is tighter, when we do switch the ball from this side through McGregor, Kuhn needs that overlap. And that is a big fucking run. AJ can do it. AJ can give that. There's no 2 ways about it. But it is a big ask. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be on time. And, if Kuhn then does get 2 guys around him, it just makes it harder, So I think this is kind of going to be the main balance of play, how things will pan out. Aberdeen's main route to go. They'll fancy themselves from corners and free kicks and long throw-ins and all that kind of crap. But I think for us, it's about knitting the play where we get, Dyson into this kind of second striker from wide situation. We're probably going to, I've actually seen the left, but when we do have Dyson on the left, we actually do, and Dyson's been a lot better as a left forward. His crossing's really improved. He did have a game recently where it was a wee bit of like, we jumped back through time to Dyson 3 years ago, where it was just like left toeing it off of everything. But generally, like when we've had a better tune out of Dyson with the goals he's been scoring, we've been coming down the right, and Dyson has just been second striker in here, right place, right time to poke one in, catch a rebound, get a head on something, whatever it might be. So I think that's kind of generally how we do want to play in this one, is we want to kind of build out from the back here in the sense of we get Taylor clipped in here into midfield, which releases McGregor to roam a little bit more. And then, yeah, we try and focus stuff down this side of the pitch here so that when the ball does come into the box, we've got Ida and Dyson, not quite as a front two, but really if you just took a picture of what's going on, you would think it was big guy, wee guy up front rather than a left striker and a centre forward. And yeah, it's probably our primary route to go is going to be coming down the right. But just with the bigger pitch and whatever, that takes a few more passes because we want to play passes and activate their press and tire them out and then move the ball where they have to then recover back in. They've got more ground to recover in. So we kind of play on the left to then switch it right. And then when we go to the right is sorry, guys. I think I was sitting there with the mute button on there a little bit too long. Apologies, everyone. Apologies. I'm not too sure. Yeah. I'm not too sure where I left off there. The kids were going mental with a Mario Kart, and I had to go, guys, just take a wee edge off it. And yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm not too sure. Oh, Jesus, guys, we went through. Oh, Jesus. We're talking about. Tell me the last thing you heard. If you're watching this after we're live, I'm really sorry. We build on the left and then switch right. Oh, did you hear that? Or maybe I just clicked it by accident. And then we switched to the right. Okay, so you heard everything for the most part. Maybe I just clipped out. And then, yeah, McGregor is backwards to go forwards. It was only about 10, 20 seconds. Oh, brilliant. Okay, yeah. And then McGregor's the guy to go backwards to go forwards, as Brendan Rodgers loves. And then if it, once we've exhausted everything down this side, we are still happy to play on the left. And that's when you do see normally Hatate pick up the ball in this kind of spot here, or the ball eventually gets found to Dyson out here, and then he does play the wider role kind of thing. So we do have two dimensions to the team. I think we feel it a bit more with Yang and Forrest because they're both kind of just the same guy in terms of they'll go on the front foot, they'll take their man on, they'll make them backpedal, and then they're looking for a cross or a shot or lay someone else off kind of thing. Whereas with the strikers we've got here, we really want Dyson in the box. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. If we are not playing him centre forward, we kind of want him to be de facto centre forward the same way that Taylor is. And I know people were like that. How did Taylor play midfield? I forget what game that was now. It's been on mute for half an hour. Monty, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. You're freaking me out. He's been playing midfield for the last 3 years. I don't know if you've noticed, so. And again, yeah, that was exactly what it was. When Taylor get moved into midfield, that just told you everything you needed to know. Like, because he just went into doing the Hatate job. We had Schlipp at left back, and he was like, Taylor did a big part of controlling the team. McGregor-esque in some ways, but less. Someone needs to confirm with me that Monte is pulling my leg because I'll freak out otherwise. So yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the way it's going to go. I don't think we don't really barter with set pieces too much. Could there be penalties or a direct? How many free kicks do we score? Not very many. It's going to all be about open play. Set pieces are the main currency of the enemy. The refereeing decisions over the last couple of games as well have been wild, and especially against Aberdeen, of course, with Pape Gay not picking up a second yellow for just volleying Hatate. And I've got a feeling we're going to be annoyed with the referee again in this game because I think if Aberdeen can keep it tight for the length of time, oh, good, thank you very much. Thanks very much, Walker and Liam. Yeah, I can be all right banter. Yeah, I can be all right banter. I like to think I'm good company. But the longer they can keep it tighter and stop us playing football and make it about free kicks and throw-ins that we're not really that good at, the happier Aberdeen will be. And how many refs do we think are neutral or fair? the list is quite short if there is a list. Does one name count as a list, or does no names on a list count as a list? Who is the ref? I don't know. Chat can maybe help us. Yeah, he plays great with Hatate. I think Hatate and McCowan, by the way, is also a very underrated combination we've had in midfield. Generally, obviously Hatate's not available, so we won't have that potential. But yeah, they're gonna let us play out wide, Aberdeen, because that's what we want to do. Generally, is we split our midfield so wide, we stretch our whole team out across. Taylor and McGregor, the two closest players on the pitch most of the time to someone else. And Aberdeen are quite easy to defend. And that's why teams are frustrating for us to watch when you're like, oh, these guys don't even try and play football. You know, some guys do, Hibs, St Mirren, whatever. But these teams are like, well, we can just pack the middle. Celtic want to be out wide, and we'll happily let them go out wide as long as there's always two guys to face up with Kuhn and no one's got a really easy pass on. And then if we do turn the ball over, we know, feed that channel, send that man on, hit Nisbet, hold on to the ball, Nisbet, hold off Scales, get that overlap and runner player 1-2. It's someone breaking their neck to get through the middle. And yeah, it's going to be quite forecastable, this game. But one of the hardest things to forecast is going to be... Oh, sorry. I was like, I didn't get the sarky bit. I was like, am I being sarcastic? Am I being snarky? Oh, good. I know you are generally, right? But I do get paranoid that you're telling the truth. Kelly St Mirren, yeah. Well, Kelly are like the McInnes ball, aren't they, generally? But I think you're going to see it. We won't get into McInnes today, right? But it'll be interesting to see him at Hearts. But yeah, what would be forecastable, but what will be harder to forecast is the scoreline, I think. I didn't see us getting a clean sheet against them last time, especially when the team sheet came out and it was the second string. But you know what? I see a clean sheet in this game. I think Hampden's much harder to score on in this situation for Aberdeen. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's going to be a great final experience for us. We really are strutting our stuff, shaking our tail feathers, all that kind of stuff. And I think if we get the first goal, we get the second goal, like, we could just see capitulation. We've seen it at Hampden from Aberdeen already. Leopards don't change their spots overnight. And I think I see a clean sheet in this one. I think we keep it tight defensively ourselves. And I don't think that's too hard. It's not as if we need to be compact or anything, but really, like, how many threats do they have where 1v1, Scales versus Morris versus Taylor, Nisbet versus a centre-back, Kiskinen versus 1v1, not worried about any of their attackers. Where their attackers become worrying is if it's 3v2 or, you know, maybe even 2v2. I would go as far as to say I would accept to be worried, you know. But 1v1, I'm not worried. And if we can keep it 1v1 with whoever they're trying to break away with, I'm going to be cool with that. I've got no qualms. Schmeichel's a big gamekeeper. Schmeichel's not played many finals in his life, but he has played them. And you can bet your bottom dollar he'll be taking this absolutely super seriously as if it was a Champions League final or something. I don't know if McCowan's going to start this, but I'd love to give him my shout for guy that writes his name all over the game. And like if he puts in a really good, like, peak McCowan performance where people can clearly see the parallel between him and Hatate, I think he could come out with this the winner of the game quite easily. Engels still has that on his to-do list for this season. Bernardo and Ida kind of got that in the Scottish Cup final last year. Could it be Engels' moment where it kind of, I don't want to say whitewashes his season, but it maybe just gives his season a cherry to put on top of the cake. Now, maybe that cherry isn't as fat and red as juicy with as big of a stalk on it as you would want, but it'll still be a cherry, you know, like where he's won as the final, he was the man that made the difference, something like that. He's super determined to do that kind of development, of course, and that's why I don't close the door on him doing it at this last stage of the season. And similarly to the last couple of games, I think when we're in that kind of zone, that kind of form, Brendan's got the guys like optimized for this. You know, we've been building the squad towards this game now for the last month. But one of the main strengths of Brendan 2.0 is squad optimization for the Champions League games, for important cup matches. Maybe not quite for derbies, but I don't know. Maybe that's a different kettle of fish. Maybe I don't know, but we could maybe sum that up as being. But I think Brendan's been fantastic at that this year. And I think that's what he's been doing with this final. He wants that treble, you know. And I see Dyson scoring one, if not two. Ida's going to get a goal from me. Kuhn maybe doesn't score, but maybe he opens up the team, gets some assists or whatever. So I think there's 2 or 3 goals from the attacking players. Maybe McKeown takes one off of Dyson or something if he plays. If he's not, if it's Bernardo, then If it's Bernardo, it's just more of a chance of Engels being the guy, maybe. But yeah, I think we can get two. I think we can get three from the starting front line. I think we can get one from someone else, and I think we can get one from the bench. So I'm going to go for 4 or 5-0. It was 5-1 last time, wasn't it? I'm going to go for 5-0. I'm going to go for 5-0. Let me know, guys, who you think you're. This is for you guys in the comment section as well who are watching this after we've been live. I want your score prediction. I want your man of the match shouts, etc. Yeah, that's kind of. Now, Nisbet will go shoulder to shoulder. And see, the thing is, like, it doesn't need to be quick. See if it's 1v1. See if the ball goes long and it is, like, down this side of the pitch and it's just Scales and Nisbet. Pace kind of comes out of it. So, although Scales can get to the ball first, what distance does he get to the ball first? Like, time, Like, when I was an active coach, one of the things, like, I'm a very talkative person at football. If you've ever watched football with me, like, I don't shut up. When I was coaching football, I was maybe a bit more restrained because I was cautious, aware, conscious that people might look at you and think, oh, that guy's a dick, or look, that guy's full of himself or whatever. But it's just a kind of natural thing in me. But I still did shout a lot. And one of the main things I would try and shout at players is, you've got 1 touch, you've got 2 touches, you've got all the time you need, you've got 2 seconds, you've got 3 seconds. If they had, like, that's the information I like to try and get from the touchline. And point being, how much time does Scales get on Nisbet pace-wise? He does get some, but does he get Scales? You've got 2 touches, you can take 1, 2. You need to play it first time, or you've got all the time you need. I don't think he gets all the time he needs early in the game. As the game wears on, that gap grows. But early in the game, I don't think that's a factor as much, the pace, because the ball won't get zipped in, but maybe the ball's floated up and it's too far for Nisbet to get on the end of it, but it bounces and it comes down, and then Scales gets the first touch and he's under pressure. I don't think the pace, a lack of pace, is a huge factor earlier in the match, because he'll just be closer to him and they'll just get to the ball roughly at the same time. I think Ida's done this already. I think the Aston Villa game has done that already. I think let's just go and pull up Adam Ida. Like, I've stopped Adam Ida questioning, to be honest with you. Yeah, he's, again, just to go back to some of the chat we've had earlier, yeah, he's not going to win the Ballon d'Or. He's not going to win the European Golden Boot. I think we all know that. Maybe he does. Who knows, right? Probably not for me, right? But I think really he's scoring goals for his national team. He did play well against Bayern, but the Aston Villa game for me, and I know it was kind of a nothing burger or whatever, but it's still, Aston Villa were really motivated that night. They really needed the points. They really needed the points to get top 8. And although it was less important to us necessarily, we still wanted to do well in that game. We still went in that game to win it. And Cummings and whatever only came on when it was like 4-2. So Ida, for me, I've not got big game player question marks over him. And like I've said on the channel before, I think when he wasn't free scoring, is he knew no matter what, Kyogo was going to play ahead of him. And the development of Dyson as a centre forward, I think, also took a wee bit of a chunk off of him after he got, because like Kyogo left and he started scoring and playing all the time. And then Dyson started playing through the middle, and it kind of went back to early season Ida, where he's not getting enough minutes to maybe get to the rate of scoring that he would like, or we would like. But he also kind of knows as well, for the games he did start, he's probably going to start Dyson in the bigger match rather than me. Whereas now with the injury to Jota, he knows I'm the main centre forward. I'm going to get the majority of the minutes. And I think you do need competition in a squad, but I personally think Adam Ida needs to be the main guy for his psyche, for his confidence, for his decision making on the pitch. I don't think he can be worried. I don't think we want him worried about, oh, if I fuck this up, I'm going to get subbed off, or if I don't score a hat trick, I'm not going to make the next game. That kind of thing. So I think Ida's proven the big game thing. I think it's just more of a personality thing, maybe and maybe I'm reading too much into the situation, but that's how I read it. Is, if he knows he's going to play every week, he'll score, he'll do a good shift, he'll be fine. If he thinks if he does a bad performance, misses a sitter, he's likely to be subbed off or dropped, I think you get less out of him, is my kind of summation. Thank you, I think. But yeah, let's put the thing on. So yeah, I'm going to go. Who's coming from the bench? We've got Jimmy, we've got Kenny. Oh yeah, we're getting I'm going 5-0. We definitely got a goal from the bench. I think the front line between Ida, Dyson, and Kuhn, I think we get 3 goals from the starting front line. We get a goal from the bench, and there's a goal in the rest of the team somewhere. Engels, Scales, AJ, McKeown, McGregor, maybe Bernardo. There's a goal somewhere else, I think. Bernardo maybe from the bench, McKeown, whatever. Yes, Ida's done very well in all competitions. It's probably better to look at flash scores for that. So let's go and put that on screen. He still has a good seat, but I'm just trying to keep it real and keep it in perspective, because not every Celtic striker is Henrik Larsson. Not every Celtic striker is, dare I even say it, Lee Griffiths, where they can just score obscene amount of goals game after game. But here's Adam Ida, and let's have a look in all comps. 13 in the league, 2 in the cups. That's 15 international cups, 3. So he's on. I've just lost my math. Sorry, 18 in all competitions. With assists, he's got 1 assist. So maybe if we're adding that on, and maybe if you're adding in internationals, he's got 4 goals in internationals. I'm not too sure when these ones happened, but let's even say 2. So yeah, with international goals, we could probably get him to 20 plus goal contributions and 20 goals, 1 assist, including internationals, which is fair play, which is like solid. But it's just like, yeah, I just don't expect him to be, because he's just not going to get the minutes, quite frankly, ultimately, because the number 1 transfer target for me in Brendan Rodgers' mind is still a Kyogo replacement. And then he does not going to be that guy anymore. Maybe we need to develop him into being that guy where he can accept the minutes he gets and still perform and not worry about, if I miss this, I might get dropped or any of that kind of thing. But yeah, as we find them, that's how I describe him. It's as fair as I can do. So yeah, I'm going to stick with 5 now. I'm going to go with, I don't know if McKeown starts, right? So I'm going to put my neck on the line. I'm going to say Arnie Engels shows up. I'm going to say Arnie Engels is going to make sure that the fans go off into the summer seeing the improvement he's made, see the impact that he makes on the team when he can, stretch his wings and fly kind of vibes. And he has also been the receipt of concrete interest from Atalanta. So maybe that shop window element helps lift the bar for him mentally. Not that you need that in a cup final pursuing a treble, obviously, but player motivations can come in a lot of different ways. And I suspect a multi-million move a year later after a multi-million move would probably be quite exciting for a 21-year-old or whatever he is, so maybe that just G's him up. Maybe that's like the equivalent to like Yang's missus being in town, as Arnie Engels needs some transfer rumours, or perhaps. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in live, by the way. Great show on a Friday night. Absolutely loved it. We've went a little bit longer than I thought we would, but that's just because you guys in the chat have been on fire. And I also thought I was muted for half an hour or something like that. I've had an absolute blast. I was actually on, this is Axom, the Friday show on Axom, where it's like me, Ryan118, which is the first time I got to talk to Ryan in person. We've maybe met. We couldn't quite work that out between us. Tino, of course, who I've met a few times now. Lovely guy, great content creator. And obviously Paul John, the leader of the band, as it were. So if you've not caught that, feel free to check it out. I don't really remember everything we spoke about, but I certainly remember I had a lot of fun. And because we've done that twice now, I felt a bit more relaxed and it was a bit more natural for me. And I was just a bit more, the first time I don't think I was unnatural or stiff or anything, but I felt more comfortable the second time around. So hopefully you guys enjoy listening to that if you've not caught it already. We'll have a breakdown of the game after we've finished with the game. Will we go live on Saturday? But I don't know if we'll go live. Yeah, we might do because my editor won't be around Saturday until night time. So that means it'll come out. So, who knows? Who knows? There will be a cup final breakdown. And then we'll be sailing into the summer where it's all going to be about transfer rumors, squad development, player profiles, report cards. It's going to be a great time on the channel, guys. If you haven't done so already, like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff. We're really pushing for 18,888 subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, it means a lot. It does a big difference to helping us reach our goal. I would love to hit that by the end of the season. It's very unlikely now at this point. But anyway, we move onwards and upwards. We've had an amazing season on the channel, and I look forward to an amazing summer after the final with you guys as well. If you're going to the game, well done to yourself for getting a ticket. Travel safe, have fun, stay out of trouble. Hail, hail, and moan the hoops. Look to the camera.